I got the pop-up.
Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 397 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on June 19th, 2023.
We need your help to support Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a patron. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
This takes us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I ask Andrew what he's drinking.
Well, I'm drinking my homebrewed Acer Glen. That's where you basically make a mead, but you do half the amount of honey and you add maple syrup instead. So it's nice, 8.5%, and it carbonated on its own accidentally. So that was a nice surprise. So
I have no idea if YouTube is working or not because it did something weird. So it's entirely possible that there will be no peanut gallery.
The Gilded group says that we're live. So did
Excellent.
Get the notification in there from the bot. So
okay, maybe only our Gilded friends will see it. I don't know why it made me sign in. It's never made me do that before, but I don't know. YouTube. I am not drinking mead or half mead and half maple syrup. I am drinking an old fashioned. It's whiskey. It's good.
I was expecting a Caesar when you said you were drinking a salad.
No, not quite. I have orange and cherries in my whiskey. And ice. You have to have ice.
Yeah. Sounds good.
It is good. It is. It's Patriot Challenge. Did you didn't say anything that you've done for the Patriot Challenge recently? Have you improved yourself in any way since we have last had you on the podcast? I
believe so. Yes, I am doing a lot of home improvements. I've reorganized the bunker and tried to get more space and get my workroom back. I am back on the train of learning German. So I'm at like a 20-day streak right now. Like gave it up for a while and I'm back on it. So I'm getting there.
Are you using an app to do that, or are you just watching children's programs?
I'm using an app. Yeah, just to help hammer it in, do an extra like 20 minutes, half an hour every single night. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but keep it up just a little bit at a time. And then eventually I will move up to children's programs once they, I can understand them speaking at normal speed. And
yeah.
Because it takes a couple seconds to process it. It's like, what did they say? Okay, if they said one sentence and stopped, I can get a second, understand what they said, and then move on to the next one. But if someone had a full-blown conversation at a higher level than me, I would get lost very quick.
I was trying to watch a children's program in Finnish, and they have a chef. His name is Cookie. But also I've discovered that the slang for cocaine in Finnish is also cookie. And 100% they were doing drugs on a children's TV show with like basically Muppets. Like talking hand puppets, and yeah, they were sniffing a lot of coke. Yeah. Finland sounds like a cool place.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to go there at some point.
Patriot Challenge things. I am doing all of the Patriot Challenge things. I drink my water, I get my exercise, I read my book. I am reading fiction right now. I'm rereading the Terminal List series, but I talked through the new book. Peter, who once upon a time was a panelist, was chirping me that I hadn't read the newest edition in the Jack Carr series. So I got knocked that out the other week, and I'm rereading the rest of the books in the Terminal List series.
Yep. I'll add that to my list and catch up to it at some point. I finally caught up and read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, and that was a good book. So a little bit behind on book club for myself, but
that's okay. We're all a little behind on book club. We're a little behind on a lot of things. Army Run is coming up. There's probably other events going on. No one is emailing those in, so I'm not aware of them, because if you don't email me, I don't know.
We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Version of the show is available pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah. I discovered that I was actually looking at the RSS feed today, and one of the episodes recently didn't publish. So it might be on your podcast app because it's on the Apple Store, but it wasn't on our website, so it may or may not have got your podcast feed. 395, I think, was missing. I fixed it today, but it's like a retroactive fix, so it's not like, I don't know. Use the iTunes feed. Podcast catchers probably got it. News. Yeah.
Sure.
News. Ontario threatens to increase its minimum wage to $16.55 an hour. This is coming in October. Apparently, the only way to fight inflation is by
giving more money.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on here. Like,
well, not everyone.
No, the precise opposite of everyone.
Yeah.
The government's saying that it's a 6.8% increase, which it is. That factually accurate, but there are groups that are now pushing. Do you remember Fight for 15? Fight for 15 was like a little over 5 years ago. There were protesters.
Yeah,
I remember I had to go to City Hall in Kitchener. Terrible time, but I had to go to City Hall in Kitchener, and there were Fight for 15 protesters. And this was very memorable for me. And it was about 6 years ago. And now we have labor advocates and the opposition parties in Ontario fighting for a $20 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah, that's...
I don't know about you. I am not getting a 6.8% raises here.
Nope.
My pay will the value of my money will be less as a result of this.
Yeah, can say the same. Unless there's something done with bonuses different than previous years, but
which, I mean, bonuses are a very like you problem, right? That's not that's not a wage thing. That's your business, and that's how maybe you're on a commissioning structure, or maybe you are a employee-owned company, or there's some other bonusing mechanism in place.
Yeah.
But if you're an hourly employee, if you're like a salaried like wage earner, wage cuck, if you will, okay, you're going from $15.50 to $16.55 to flip burgers at McDick's. Awesome.
Yeah, you get more than that working at McDonald's. I don't know, probably like 6-8 months ago or something like that, I happened to drive by McDonald's one time. I saw on their flyer that they're hiring people for $18 or $19 an hour.
Yeah, there's a Wendy's near me that I see, and they've got a sign up: hiring managers starts at $22 an hour. And I was like, that's I mean, like, that's not great money, but like, I'd manage a Wendy's for $22 an hour.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but I think the long term of this, my big point is that yes, the minimum wage employees are going to make more, but the rest of us are not, which means our dollar is going to be worth less, because when we give the people at Tim Hortons an extra 25 cents an hour, the coffee will go up 5 cents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like it does every time this happens.
Yeah, or less hours. I know when they did the $15 increase, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but the grocery store that was by me, they were 24 hours. They now have cut that. They're doing regular hours from like 6 to 10 or something like that. Maybe a little bit later. So they got rid of a whole shift. So that's a whole bunch of people no longer working. All because the minimum wage went up. What was it, like $2 or something at the time?
Well, I think that's about right. And in real life, I do industrial automation. This is, I don't think, a secret. People know this. One of my goals is to replace unskilled workers with robots, like freaking cool robots with laser beams on their head and shit. But like, if I can make a robot that does what you do, and I can sell the robot for like your year's salary, it is way better for a company to buy a robot from me to do that than it is for them to hire you for the rest of your career to like pick the box up and put the box back down again, or whatever it is the robot does. Weld the same joint on the car, or put the screw in the piece of sheet metal, or whatever that simple, like, thoughtless function is.
Yeah.
Right. If I can, what's a minimum wage employee going to make now? If they worked a full year, they'd make $34,000 a year or so. 2,080 hours in a working year on average, 40 weeks, 52 weeks in a year, 1655s, 34,000 and change. Chris is probably going to correct me because he always critiques my mathematics.
Yeah, 34,400, I think.
Suck
That's
it,
50.
Chris.
That's 52 weeks, so depends on vacation and all that stuff.
Well, let's assume
Close
that they
enough.
didn't take any
Close
vacation because they're an hourly employee, right? So like $34,000 a year. So if I can make a robot for like about that, it's better that they buy my robot than they employ you for any amount of time.
Plus, no vacation time, no sick
vacation
leave.
time, no sick day.
Yeah, the only break time is when it physically breaks.
Right. Which is a thing that happens. And we can't replace all of the low skill or no skill, unthinking labor with automation, but there are a lot of companies. We're very busy at an engineering firm that's what we do is we do industrial automation. And some of it is like, well, we don't want people handling these things because like these are dangerous chemicals or this is like dangerous mining or some other thing where like people and this process shouldn't be mixed for safety.
Yeah.
But some of it is like, probably don't want to pay a guy to do this forever.
Yeah. Plus with the AI and stuff going nuts now, and it's funny enough how all the creative jobs are the ones that are getting kicked away first. So any writers, artists, they're starting to go now. They're their jobs are numbered unless they're highly specialized in what they do. Like, because
glad I went with
like me can just jump in and install a program in a computer and tell it to spit out whatever the hell you want. It works. Like, yeah, it takes a little bit to understand it, but and even programming and stuff. Like the last year, everyone, or at least the last couple of years, but like they're heavily focused on it in the last year. Everyone, learn how to code. And now coding is
up to a point. I mean, you do need somebody to make the AI, but once the AI becomes sentient, we have the whole Skynet scenario.
Yeah. Telling AI to make paper clips the most efficient as possible is going to decide to wipe out the humans because it's slowing it down.
I mean, I, for one, welcome our new AI overlords.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do not see this minimum wage increase in Ontario being a good thing. And I know there's going to be people that are going to be like, but they need to make more money because they need money and they have a job and they're doing things and they should be, capitalism is bad. Okay. And I understand the argument up to a point, but a 6.8% increase for unskilled labor, and the skilled labor is going to get the 3% adjustment that we get every year because that's what we get. Yeah. I don't see this being a good thing. This is not going to help the economy.
No.
It's maybe going to help get some votes for some lower income people, but I don't see this being a good long-term solution. Yeah.
And just to be more specific with the numbers, it's currently in Ontario at 1550, so 50, and it's going up to 1655. So, and October 1st.
Yeah.
And there's something as well about students or under 18.
There's all the normal addendums and caveats. If you're a student, you get paid student wages, except in certain cases where you get paid real wages. Or if you're in a federally regulated industry, this doesn't apply. Or if you're an outdoors guide, hunting, fishing, wilderness guide, they have a different pay scale. It's done in half and full days. But if you have a full-time career as the burger flipper at McDick's, you're going to get a 6.8% increase this October. Thank you, Doug Ford.
Yeah. And then also kiss that little pathetic raise you may have gotten right before. Goodbye. Because that's not going to stack. If the minimum wage goes up above what you're currently getting paid, you're getting paid minimum wage again.
Which again, not advantageous for people that have been there for a while and have been trying to improve themselves in their minimum wage career.
Yeah.
But also minimum wage really not meant to be a career.
Nope. Just a couple of years to understand, get the job experience,
which
get the structure and your routine. Everyone needs to start
if you want to work at McDonald's forever, you can go and be a manager and a general manager and become a franchisee, and they have a path for that. But I don't think that's what most people that get their first summer job at McDonald's end up doing.
Yeah.
Not to say it doesn't happen, just in broad
Well,
strokes.
how many people are flipping burgers and how many people are general managers? Do the math and figure out how many people actually progress through that.
Yeah, it's not that it can't be done, just that that's not really the career path.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I'm sure the minimum wage increase will help deal with the next problem. This is on the CBC. Households now own more than Canada's entire GDP. Housing agency warns.
Yeah.
So, coming out of COVID, all the other G7 countries started to pay down their debt. Australia, New Zealand, the UK, the US, Japan, France, Germany, Italy. Everybody else, all their households paying down debt. What did Canada do? We borrow more.
Yeah. Oh, actually, Australia kept it up. They're still holding first. They were first before, and they're first now.
Australia, yeah. Well, Australia's got a weird economy, though.
But we had a bigger increase than they did.
Markedly larger increase.
Yeah, 12% versus 8%. But,
I mean, it's just 25%.
Yeah.
So, a lot of other G7 countries paying down their debt. Australia being in the lead and continuing to be in the lead. But I mean, hey, when you fight a war with emus and you lose, you too can be a prison colony.
Yeah. They're just I guess a step or two ahead of us, and we're a couple steps ahead of the US. And like
the Australian economy is a strange economy, though, right? Like, it's a really big country with not a lot of people, kind of like Canada, that has a lot of global trading partners that they don't have links with, kind of like Canada, that they're reliant on their import and exports, but they don't control, kind of like Canada. And they're at the mercy of the American financial system, kind of like Canada. But the housing crisis in Australia is insane compared to the housing crisis in Canada. They don't have nearly enough places to put all these people. We just have ridiculous prices. In Australia, they just don't have houses to put people in. It does not. It's this whole weird bidding system. It's very strange.
Yeah. And they also have their population just living along the borders.
Well, I mean, the border with the water in their case, but yes.
Yeah.
Or the borders with the emus.
So their interior is too hot. Our interior is too cold. So that's, I guess, it's kind of the same.
It's very similar. There are some parallels that I'm drawing. So most countries paying down debt. Canada and Australia not doing that. Canada doing it a lot more than Australia. Not paying our debt down, that is. So as a percentage of GDP, if we look at 2021 for the years that the study was published, for when these numbers are from, in Canada, we owe 107% of our GDP.
Yeah.
We owe more than our entire GDP. We have so much debt that we should have a negative GDP. I don't even know, how did we even arrive at this? I mean, I know
2015 is when we started to arrive there really quick.
Yes, which yes, 2015 and a global recession and a global pandemic. And I get that, but oh boy.
Yeah.
Our economy is not in good shape.
No, it's fucked. It's so bad.
And the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation has very astutely pointed out that mortgage debts are the largest problem in this. Yeah. Housing prices increase in Canada. Households take on more debt. The total debt rises in the economy. The solution to this is affordable housing. Correction. The solution to this is housing affordability. Affordable housing is like a socialist buzzword for making communist style concrete buildings a la Leningrad. That is not what I am advocating. I am advocating that we remove the government with force if necessary to reduce the inflation and resolve the housing crisis, because the housing crisis only really exists in places like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. It's all the biggest cities in Canada. The rest of the country, as Andrew very correctly points out, is cold and empty. It's like a vast tundra. There's nothing there. There's lots of room to build. There's just not lots of room to build in southern Ontario or next to the St. Lawrence or around what's the body of water that separates Vancouver and Victoria?
The sea?
No, it's like a strait. It's like is it the
let me quickly bring
yes, intern faster. But the bulk of the population in BC is around Vancouver or Victoria. The bulk of the population
Strait of Georgia.
The Strait of Georgia in British Columbia. This is not very. I was hoping it'd be at least like Lord Stanley's Strait or something.
And there's also the Harrow Strait. It's kind of, it changes names. Well, I'm learning something new today.
Perfect. Yes. If we could stop having like massive population centers in those parts of the country, also in southern Ontario, if we could like stop building stuff where we grow my food.
Yes.
That would also be super cool.
Luckily, they've sort of put that on hold a bit, but we'll see, because, it's the government saying that. So, we all know how much trust to put into that.
Well, not precisely zero, but
yeah.
Stop turning the best farmland in the province, maybe the country. I don't know. The Okanagan is really good farmland too, and there are parts of Quebec that are not awful. I mean, Quebec is awful, but there are parts that are not bad for growing food in. But why would you build more cities in southern Ontario? Just put a wall around Toronto and keep it inside of that.
Yeah.
Don't let it keep growing out to the part where we grow my food, because I like my food. But yes, housing prices remarkably causing an increase to debt. Who would have guessed?
Yeah.
The other piece that I wanted to address from this article, Benjamin Tal, an economist at CIBC, that's a bank here in Canada, in the midst of the affordability crisis, wants to point out that we need to create a situation which you are 35 years old, you're married, you have kids, and you are renting. Nothing is wrong with you.
Yeah, hey, that's the precise.
What would it feel like to be 35 years old and be married and have kids, be renting, Andrew?
That would fucking suck.
Yeah, it would be awful. Who fits into that, a lot of those tick boxes there, can't say that that's the Canadian dream.
Yeah, no, that's the exact opposite time, or the exact opposite thing of what you should be doing. At that point, right? You should have a house.
Why would you not want to have a house if you're in your middle 30s and married and have children?
Yeah. Like, you're just throwing money away, at least with a mortgage. Like, I know I'm telling people to buy a house to make the housing market worse, but in normal
the housing market is already bad. But I blame the boomers and the government. So
yes, everyone buying second, third, fourth, fifth, multiple properties, all to rent it out to make money off of it. That's a big chunk of the problem.
You know what? I'm not even going to give the boomers a hard. If you have like a rental property that you're landlording, I don't see okay. You've made some good financial decisions. You've got another house. You bought a house, you flipped it, you sold it, like you got a rental property out of it, or you put some money aside and you bought something to rent it out. I'm not going to give people a hard time about that. You got a second home because you've got a family cottage or a weekend place. Yeah, I'm not going to get. I'm going to give the government specifically grief about the foreign investment of allowing people to come into this country and buy up property when they're not paying taxes in this country.
Or even residing in the country.
Well, but that's the thing. They're not residing here. Why are we allowing foreign nationals to buy properties in this country as like some sort of debt loss scheme on their own tax system? Or for their kids to be able to come here to go to university, which they have universities in other countries. They can go to other countries. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. There is, I'm going to say there's no one going to school at like pick your random local community college, which For me, would be like Conestoga in KW. There's no one going to Conestoga that's like going to grow up to like solve world hunger or cure cancer or anything. They're going to Conestoga to get like a business degree, or they're probably not coming here from overseas to go to the awesome woodworking program. I feel like that's mostly like local Mennonite kids that go to that program, but that's a like specifically local example. Maybe it doesn't count. If you were going to like an Ivy League school or something, maybe that's different. Maybe you're going to like health sciences at Western. Okay, maybe you're going to grow up to cure cancer. I'll give that a pass. But all of the thousands of other students that are like going to all the community colleges and taking up spaces, yeah, your parents don't need to be buying you homes here. You don't need to be coming to school here. There's nothing special about going to any of those community colleges where you're taking up space. And I mean, I get it. Like, you want to get a college education, that's cool, but you're not gaining a lot from that. You're probably most of the people doing better on a real estate deal.
Most of the citizens here aren't even taking advantage of it properly. Like,
but that's what I mean. Like, you're not coming out way far ahead. The real estate deal side of it, you actually probably are coming out further ahead. The whole like landlord situation.
Yes.
You are likely coming out further ahead on that deal than the education side of the equation. I was going to blame somebody else. I don't remember.
The government for giving away free money.
The government for giving away free money, but the REIT people, the real estate investment trusts, the large conglomerates that are basically investment firms that buy properties to rent them out. I'd be okay if we did away with those. If you want to be like a landlord and you get a couple of units and you like bought a house and you rent a room and you like bought another house and like you rent that house and okay. But when you're a publicly traded real estate company
and you buy a neighborhood,
yeah, maybe you don't need to own 20,000 units in Toronto.
Yeah.
It seems like a thing we don't need to have. Maybe we just, I don't know, appropriate those as government resources and have the CMHC do something useful for a change and actually be like a real estate agency.
Yeah.
It's okay. It gets better. Also, CBC. Bank of Canada hikes rates again, and there could be more to come.
There will be more to come. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. So this is a little out of date. This is from 10 days ago, 12 days ago, June the 8th.
But that's the most recent. The next one's in the end of July, I think, is the next rate.
Next one announcement. If they're going to do it, it'll be the end of July.
Yeah. So it's still accurate. The numbers aren't going to be changed in here.
So as of the beginning of June, the big banks have all matched the rate hike, and we're moving prime to 6.95%. So that's great. The Bank of Canada benchmark rate is up to 4.75%. So the big five are all 6.95%. All of this to say that if you had a variable rate mortgage, you might be screwed.
Yeah. So personal experience. I signed up my mortgage. I think 5 years ago. I got a 5-year term.
How's that renewal looking?
Non-variable. So it's, as shitty as it always is. But, it went down great. I was paying 1.75% for, all of COVID. So that was great. I'm able to make, huge steps towards it. And then it ticks up and up. I'm at 6.2 right now. So that was a big increase. But I've been smart. My entire goal is to pay off this stupid thing as fast as I possibly can. So I've maxed out the amount of monthly payments I can make. I've switched it over to weekly rapid payments. I've increased the amount. I cannot increase it anymore. The bank had, my mortgage has a limit. So there's nothing more. I can do the lump sum payments than I do whenever I get an opportunity, just plunking away as much as I can. So in my case, my payments haven't increased. But I know a lot of cases, people's payments have increased because when the interest rate went up, it went over to their trigger rate. And that's when all of your payment would be going towards strictly interest and nothing would be going to principal anymore. So they would reevaluate how much your payment is to get you back on track to be able to pay your mortgage off. Otherwise, you'd have a mortgage that you'd be paying off infinitely. A lot of the banks now are switching over and increasing your amortization period. So if you signed up for a 30-year amortization, let's say recently, all of a sudden your amortization could be 40 or 50 years, but your payments stay the same.
Which I get they're trying to keep the payments the same, and I get they're trying to not like, okay, we've hit the trigger rate. We need to like do something about the interest part because we're losing money as a business. But also, you took a risk and you're a bank, so fuck you, kind of.
Yeah. So what they're doing is I think the A lenders are capped off on 45 years or something like that, what they can go with. But the B lenders, someone I had to go with when I started my own business, because the banks didn't want to fucking touch me with a 10-foot pole. They have 90-year mortgages.
Amazing.
So you can't pay your mortgage off. Maybe your kids will. It is now turned into European style generational mortgages.
That is a sad comment on the state of affairs in our country.
Yeah. And people are getting screwed even more because they see the value of their house going up and up and up. And, oh, hey, let's refinance my mortgage.
Value, quote unquote.
I've got so much more money now. And then they go and spend it on stupid shit and get themselves into even more debt. And that's part of the reason why we have more debt than the GDP.
But with this is the thing, I know people fall into this trap. And when I was young, I fell into the trap too of like, oh, well, credit is easy to obtain and credit cards are easy to spend money on. And I'll pay it back someday when I have a better job or when I finish school or when I get a promotion or whatever. Right. Like I understand people fall into that trap because it's an easy trap to fall into.
Oh,
the banks are set up for
so easy.
It is. And there is no financial literacy in this country. Like, no one at the bank is going to stop you from making bad financial decisions. The bank is there to enable them.
The fact that if you go to make a purchase on your debit card and you have no money in your account and the purchase goes through and now you are in overdraft, you now have to pay interest on it and you now have to pay an overdraft fee. That just proves it right there. They're not out for you. They're literally trying to get as much money out of it as they can.
Which I found really funny when I went from being like relatively broke as a student, like massively in debt as a student, to like being part of the lower middle class and having money in the account. It's like, oh, I have enough money to put it into a savings account. Now the bank is actually giving me a tiny amount of money every month instead of charging me $15 for this checking account.
Yeah.
Which I don't. And I know there's the whole A lender, B lender, the top 5 banks thing, but like, can I not just deal with Bank of Canada? They're the ones printing the fake money. Can I not just get a loan from them? Do I have to go through CIBC or Scotia or TD or BMO? I mean, if I have to go through anybody, I prefer it to be TD Bank. TD Bank is the best bank. TD.
Yeah.
Yeah. More rate. I also like TD. More bank rate hikes, I think, are going to be coming. I'm amazed the Americans didn't match ours this month because the U.S. Fed and the Bank of Canada tend to do their interest rate adjustments within a few days of one another, just the way the cycle falls.
Yeah.
And the Americans paused theirs in June. But
they did follow up pretty much immediately saying that there was going to be increases coming.
Yes, they did. Which I mean,
it
would be silly to think that there's not going to be more.
Yeah,
it's just also reading some of the financial papers with this. It's like we're increasing the interest rate because unemployment sucks and the economy sucks and the stock market sucks. Hey, the economy did slightly better this month, and we beat the jobs numbers, and the markets are up. Interest rates are also going up, though. It's like wait, what? Last month that. You said the opposite of these things.
And then when they held it, a couple at the beginning of the year, they held the rates. They did it because the market was too shit. And they did the exact opposite of what they said earlier.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like this is all made up
now,
and the points don't matter. And
yeah,
I think that this month to month adjustment, it just like it's too fast to mean anything. You just like you're just playing with the dial before anything happens.
yeah.
They need to have a 12 or 18-month lead on these changes to see what actually occurs.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think you got to be kind of retarded to not see what you have to do is to crank up the interest rates. And right, because like we still honestly, like 20 years ago, if you said you could have got like a mortgage at 5%, like you would have got it. You would have jumped on it. Like these rates
sure.
are quite low. But that's going to kick a lot of people out of the houses. So that's what they've got to balance. And you kind
I
of
don't
just
know.
fucking do it. Like
This is a gamble that you have to take, though. This is the way the
yeah,
economy works, and we have a precarious situation with our housing market. I don't know why people didn't learn from 2008. It baffles me that like nobody understood what happened in 2008. So like we're just going to do it again, I
history is
guess.
doomed to repeat itself. Like
Well, I
it
mean,
just
yes, but like so we are basically we have now returned to pre 2008 interest rates. Right. That was the last, like 2007 was the last time that the benchmark rate was over 4%.
yeah. And then before that was 2001 when it started going down.
Yeah, there was a part in the early aughts there. And I don't know if that's in the early aughts. I don't know if that's necessarily comparable when they were like 2 to 3% interest rates, because part of that was like war in Iraq and oil prices, and then war in Afghanistan, GWAT stuff. And
Yeah.
there wasn't like a massive banking crisis going on the same way as in 2008, because 2008 we had the liquidities issue and toxic mortgages, and the Americans were just like printing fake and gay money like it did, like it just money printer went burr.
Yeah.
Quantitative easing, but we never stopped doing the quantitative easing since 2008. Like it's been 12 years of just they just don't call it quantitative easing anymore, but it's just the money supply just keeps being increased, which devalues everyone's currency.
Yeah.
So okay, we're catching up with that a little bit now. The prime rates are going to go up, the lending rates are going to go up, people's trigger rates on their mortgages are going to get hit. I don't see people like, and this is probably why the terms on the mortgages are being kicked out as far as they are, with like 90-year terms. If we suddenly put a bunch of people out of their homes, the economy will fail, because the entire GDP structure is predicated on people paying their mortgages, because that's what's making up most of our GDP.
Yeah.
Right. So like you don't have to be an economist to figure out the solution to the problem here, or the nature of the problem. If you take away these people's mortgages and kick them out of their homes, which is the thing that ought to be happening, not that I want that, just that's what should happen in a sane system. You've hit your trigger rate. Unless you happen to have a lot of money to pay this back down right now, we need to like refinance or renegotiate, or you need to like sell your property and take the loss.
Yeah.
And we're not doing those things. We're just kicking the term out. That is not a recipe for success. And couple that with the lack of housing. We have infinity immigration into this country. We have infinity student visas into this country. We don't have enough places to house all of the people that currently live here, but we're going to import a bunch more.
Yeah.
And
A
we're
million,
not
million
building
and a half a
additional
year.
housing. Yeah, I think that's the figures. It is
Yeah.
about 1.5 million, 1.4 million, something like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to get all of these extra people, but we're not building another million houses a year. We're barely building a couple 100,000 more houses a year. And the entire building industry has slowed down. I mean, it's gotten better since COVID is over, because it like slowed to a crawl during COVID. And building prices, materials prices were obnoxious, and they've gotten better. But almost all of my friends in the trades are seeing slowdowns, because the companies financing big builds are not doing it right now because the interest rates are too high. They don't want to invest that kind of capital into a project at 6%. They were willing to do it at 2%, but they're not going to do it now. So where are you going to house another 1.5 million people a year? Like, somebody make the logistics of that work out for me.
Yeah. And unfortunately, all those people want to live in the areas that have no space. If they were to live out in areas where we had space, then that would be
Okay, but like,
a
aside from
solution. But
me,
there's
who
nothing
wants
out
to
there.
live in Northern Ontario?
Yeah.
And to say nothing of Manitoba. Fuck Manitoba. I mean, Peter's neighborhood sounds pretty cool, but like, outside of that,
Yeah. I want to, but my job's not there. And that's going to be the case
not there.
for
That's going to be
a lot
for a
of
lot of
people.
people. But that's the thing, is a lot of people are going to have that problem, is you have to be where there is work. And there are going to be exceptions to that. There are knowledge workers, or there are retired people, or there are people that have a family cottage that they're going to sell their home in the GTA and move to the family cottage full time. Those sort of things happen. But those are the edge cases, the exception, not the rule. Most people have jobs where they're going to need to be near an urban center, because that's where the labor needs to be done. Because you have to go into the low skill factory or the service job, because we have hardly any primary industry in this country, which is its whole own other problem unto itself. But where there's primary industry, there's no housing. People fly out to those places, they do the work, and then they fly home again.
Yep.
Defaults. This is on betterdwelling.com. Canadian mortgage default risk highest in the OECD, according to the IMF. International
highest in the world.
Did I miss a
highest risk of default in the world?
Yeah. So this is more of the same, but this is the same. Housing is bad. We don't have enough. Canadians have most of their credit leveraged against their mortgage. I think that kind of summarizes the concept there.
Yeah.
Shift gears slightly. CBC article again. CBC heavy today. Consumer confidence is surging as banks brace for defaults. What's going on? Picture of forest fire.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I don't. What? Should we pay more attention to a spate of warnings for banks and officials? And yeah, picture of a forest fire. Like,
picture of a forest fire. Yeah, picture of a forest fire. I guess for posterity's sake, because somebody could be listening to this in the future, there's been a bunch of forest fires in Quebec recently. Yeah,
Canada is on fire everywhere. If you look at the fire apps, the entire
can we just celebrate Quebec being on fire for a moment?
We need more parts of Southern Ontario.
Parts of BC, parts of Alberta, a large swath of Quebec near the National Capital Region, all on fire, to the point where people in New York are selling their home. New York City, New York State. Those people are considering selling their homes due to these smoke advisories they're receiving. Fuck you, New York. But what does forest fires got to do with consumer confidence? Are we drawing a parallel that people should have been aware of, that there might be forest fires because we live in a very heavily forested country? Should people be drawing the parallel that perhaps cutting the Alberta Wildfire Forest Service budget for the last 5 years was not the best plan? Should we perhaps be praising Quebec for finally doing something to contribute to the rest of the country? I mean, personally, again, Quebec. Great fishing in Quebec. But yes, as Canadians try to make sense of the series of frightening headlines where we link back to yet another CBC article, difficult question is whether warnings of the political environment are a signal of a crash position, or if we should, and this is a very interesting phrase, if we should trust our fellow travelers who seem to be taking the distressing indicators with a grain of salt. I thought there's a lot of propaganda going on the CBC in this particular article, which is why I bring it up, because I will always relish in being able to bash the CBC as like a journalistic source, as the like flag broadcaster in this country. And this is the quality of the journalism that we have coming out of the CBC. Pictures of forest fires for financial articles. And I don't know. You're probably well read enough to know this. You're like me that you're not old enough to have remembered these things. Do you know what a fellow traveler is, Andrew?
I recognize the reference. I can't tell
Yeah,
you where.
well, that's the thing is like you're I'm gonna say that we're close enough to the same generation that you're like me that you've like you know about it, but you don't remember why you know about it. So something you read somewhere.
Yeah.
And yes, it also is a TV series, but it's not that. Um, fellow traveler is a McCarthy era ism. So during the USSR era up until about 1980, when did the wall fall? 1985, 88,
90,
somewhere around
91.
there. Was it 91? What? Maybe it was immediately prior to that. But during the Soviet Union era, so like the end of Vietnam, middle 60s, in through the end of Vietnam, into the wall in Berlin, all of that stuff in the 80s. Fellow travelers is like this like McCarthyism. It was other communists that were not necessarily like card carrying Communist Party members, but it was other people that got along with Uncle Joe, right? This was like a euphemism they used for Stalin. One of the American presidents called him Uncle Joe. I forget which American president that was.
This was before I was born, so
Well, that's what I mean. Like this is stuff I've read about. This is not stuff that I remember. So fellow travelers are other commies.
Oh, okay.
Right. So this is they're on the same. I thought it was a very interesting phrase to put into this, that they have these fellow travelers and they're taking this with a grain of salt. And it's like, well, okay, so we're talking about commies here, we're talking about bankers, or we're talking about the same thing. Because the banks and economists are talking about the political and economic turbulence, but also like nobody's that worried about it. But also you have a picture of a forest fire and you reference frightening headlines with a link back to another CBC article. Maybe I'm looking into this too much, but I feel like maybe the CBC is telegraphing what's going on here. Maybe it's all a little bit of a plot. They're not as concerned as they might make it out to be, as you might imagine it is from the picture of the forest fire.
Yeah. Or the lady stressfully looking at a bill.
Well, I mean, like, have you ever seen a bill? Bills are hard to read. I'm trying really hard not to do an anti-feminism right now and make it about the fact that it's a woman reading a bill. So that would be upsetting for, well, almost 50% of our audience.
Yeah.
So lots of debt, lots of problems with interest rates. All of the G7 countries are not in good shape. The GDP ratio, again, being mentioned in this article. Not enough houses, COVID recessions, per capita expenses bad. Canada has too much debt. Individual Canadians have too much debt, most of it tied up in their mortgage. But it was the beginning of the article with the picture and the fellow travelers piece and the link to the scary headline that was another CBC article. It was like,
yeah, it was one that we referenced earlier in the show. So
it's so good that it's all like right there in the beginning of the article.
Yeah. Oh God.
All right, a little more on mortgages. This is
Back to something actually fires, I suppose. Canadians' high mortgage debt, a ticking time bomb as renewals loom.
Well, so this is the scary piece, right? So you said you renewed 5 years ago on a 5 years, so you're due for a renewal.
November.
So how's that 6% looking?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm paying now. So I like I'm variable. It actually might be able to go a little bit lower if I swap some things around. Not much, but I haven't quite looked yet, but I'll be looking soon. So like
I mean, I feel like you and I are probably in a better position, and maybe this is generally like listeners of our show, people that are more tuned into politics and economics and what's going on in the world are maybe more aware of this. But I have definitely been subjected to some of the water cooler talk with people that are, oh, my variable rate mortgage went up another 25%. I don't know if I can afford to do this other thing. And it's like, bro, your mortgage went up $20 a month. Your mortgage went up $35 a month. Like, yeah. And I realized that was this time. And like, this is the 15th time it's happened or whatever we're up to
Yeah.
now, right? So I mean, I get that. But what was and I mean, ballpark, your mortgage, you're on a variable rate mortgage, you went from like 2 something to 6 something. Are you paying a lot more in actual dollars?
Hard for me to tell because I was able to, being in a good position, put my mortgage payments to be 500 a week at the
Yeah, so
time.
you've taken
So
steps to mitigate all of that
I've
already.
before this, like before the rates went down, I was already getting close to being able to max out, and I can't pay it off any faster than doing lump sums, like, or at least with the automatic payments every week. So it would have gone up. I think I would have hit the trigger rate for sure. But because I signed up when it was still in the high twos, 2.75 or something like that, or close to 3, it was factored in at that point. So it would have taken maybe up until now or something like that to maybe get close to hitting the trigger rate, and then recalculating what the payments and stuff would be. So it's hard for me just because the COVID happened pretty much in the middle of my term. But some of my friends, like, they're in different positions because they bought a house later than I did, and terms just lined up, and their renewals happen to be right at where it was at the lowest peak, and they fucking locked in for 5 or 7 years. I'm like, okay, good. You guys are in perfect position. Pay that shit off as fast as you can
right now.
Go, like, just boom, 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 pump everything you possibly can into this mortgage. Pay the thing off because you don't want to be paying the mortgage off when you're like 60 years. Yeah, and if shit hits the fan at some point with you, you can refinance it because you would have been able to make a huge chunk into the principal of it. So you could take off like a third of it or half of it, maybe, depending on what your mortgage amounts were. Like, I bought my house for quite cheap. I'm like, under 300,000 for my place. I got a relatively small place, but
it's not the size that
not
matters,
that high.
it's what you do with it that counts.
I seem to be doing all right in here, but it's different. Just I've been looking out to try and buy a house. I've stopped now because shit's just gone insane. Like,
again, prices. I thought we were coming back down to some semblance of like almost normalcy, but like,
nope, keeps going up.
Insane again.
Yeah, even with all these high rates and stuff, people are still putting going to try and get $1 million house, and they have an $800,000 or $900,000 mortgage, if not more. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how are you going to pay that off?
I don't understand how you. That's the thing is, I don't understand how you can be like looking at $1 million mortgage, even on a 40-year term. I don't understand how you can be seriously looking at $1 million mortgage when the median income in this country is like $55,000 a year.
Yeah,
like, how somebody make it work? Like, I get proudly part of the lower middle class over here, making a 6-figure salary, working in an engineering firm, not doing poorly. And I'm like, I'm not buying $1 million house.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford the payments on $1 million house. And I mean, somebody make it make sense, because I don't get it.
They all want the house, and they're strapping themselves up with as much debt as they possibly can. As we've sent.
How is it even getting approved? And that's the part that I don't understand. So like you go punch in the thing on the mortgage calculators on like the big 5, and like, what can I afford based on my salary? And it's like, oh yeah, based on 30% of your salary, you get this. And it's like, that is not $1 million. That is not $1 million mortgage. How I don't understand why the GDP is the way it is. I just don't understand how the economy is functional. Yeah. I mean, I know it's all quantitative easing and it's all fake money and it's made up and the points don't matter. I mean, I get that part, but somebody somewhere is signing the checks on this, and I don't get it.
Yeah. And I think probably about a year ago or something like that, we referenced an article. I think it was like half of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck, and like 60% of those are less than $200 away, but becoming bankrupt.
But that's what I mean. Like, the median income is like $55,000. 50% of the 50% of the people in the economy, 50% of the people in the workforce are one paycheck away from losing their house. I don't get it. I mean, like, Chris is right, and Sharon's making a lot of points in the YouTube comments there. But I mean, I'm with Chris. Crash it. Because I mean, like, I've got 10,000 rounds of 5.56. I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, be more all right than 9,998 other people anyway.
Yeah. It's just absolutely insane how this has gotten to where it is. Like, yeah. I had some other point I was going to say. I forgot it.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
It'll come back up later.
Well, I don't know
No,
that it will
like-
come back all up later because I don't really have a whole lot else to do other than I wanted to mention the update that we saw on the debt clock recently.
This one I have not seen.
Debtclock.ca. So this is the thing the Canadian Taxpayers Federation puts up. They published an update recently that I noticed. So 2015, we had 35.8 million people in Canada. I assume it's the entire population of Canada. I'm not 100% on if it's like adults or not, but like let's just go with 35.8 million.
Yeah, that would have entire population because we just hit 40 now.
Right. So, which again, Chris pointed out earlier in the show, be cheerful about something. 40 million people, yay! 1.5 million new immigrants a year, which always entertains me, as I know Chris was not born here. Part of the problem, buddy. No, I'm kidding. Totally teasing. So 2015, 36 million people are debt at $600 billion. 2022, 38.5 million people, and our debt's at $760 billion. And now we're up to 40 million people. And I'm afraid to even look at what our debt might be. I suppose I could probably pull up the current debt clock and see what it says, but it's
promise of 140 billion in debt through this year. Oh, sorry, 757 billion debt. Because they're adding on an additional 140, so to bring it to just under 760 billion with a B.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, if I'm reading the right page.
Times. Well, when you are not podcasting, which you've not podcasted a lot lately, where can people find you?
You can find me at betterandrew.biz. I will leave you with one final note of financial preparedness, I suppose. Everyone's got the .biz. Set your mortgage up at the very least. Just set it to weekly payments. You will knock years off your mortgage and you'll pay roughly the same amount. I think it's like 2, maybe 3 extra payments throughout the year. You can scrounge up that much. Like, go shooting a little bit. Well, okay, maybe not shooting. Find something else that you can give up instead, because shooting might come in handy at some point. If you can increase your mortgage just by a little bit, just an extra $50 if you can. $10 even makes a huge difference. Just all the banks have the different mortgage.
Power of compound interest is an amazing thing.
Put something in there. You will knock years off their mortgage. It will be very easy for you to cut your mortgage in half. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars less than you're paying to the bank for nothing. Like, try and pay off your mortgage as fast as you can. Like, pay off whatever you got.
Not that we're a financial advice show, not that we're like able to provide any sort of financial advice or probably any other advice, because this is strictly an entertainment show. But debt is bad, is what I'm getting out of this.
Debt is
generally bad. I don't know. Is there a reason you could think of to have debt?
The only time is if you absolutely needed to have a vehicle and your vehicle broke and you are not able to get any money out of it and you needed to purchase a vehicle.
What if I really like vehicles?
No, that is not a smart financial decision to make.
I suppose that's true. That is
true.
I'm with you. The more that you can pay off and the more that you can put, because compound interest is such a great. And again, I feel like financial literacy is one of those things that our education system on purpose skips over how to do. Yeah. It's like how to do your taxes. It's one of those things like you're supposed to learn how to do this, but like nobody ever actually teaches you how to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Financial literacy, kind of a joke, but like the power of compounding interest is such a great thing.
Yeah.
The banks use it against you all the time. The government is constantly using it against you.
Yeah. And it is amazing how you get a loan for a higher interest rate than what they'll give you too. They're not.
Yeah. Dude, so small tangent. I had a conversation with a financial advisor at a bank recently, some number of months ago. I said, the prime rate's really going up. I've still got the mortgage. That's like that's my one big piece of debt is I basically have a mortgage. I don't have consumer debt. I've paid all my
Good.
consumer debt off
Good.
over the years. I paid off all my student loans and other things, and it took a while, right? And like student loans was one of those things that I was just like, just keep paying it, and eventually I kind of like was like, wait a minute, this goes on for how long? This cost me how much money? And like, no, I'm just gonna like, I'm done with this. I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
So I have been on a mission to eliminate all of these debt payments and all the usury charges that I have. And I'm basically just down to the mortgage now. Some other things I use, but I don't pay for. Like I have a Canadian Tire credit card because I do a lot of shopping at Canadian Tire, but I never carry a balance on it. Pay it off every paycheck.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
So I'm getting my 4% Canadian Tire money, and I have my eye on a new Savage rifle for my son. But it's not costing me any interest to use it. And every time they're like, do you want to use the equal payments plan? I'm like, hell yeah, I do. Pay that off over 24 months. It's not going to take me 24 months to pay it off, but whatever. But like, sure.
Yeah.
$400 on an equal payments plan. I'm going to pay it off like whatever over the next 6 months or yeah, absolutely. No interest, no fees. Abuse the shit out of that stuff for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the other end of that, like talking to the financial advisor at the bank, I was like, hey, my my high interest savings account is less than prime. What the is that? Like, because this was when we went to like 4% or something, or 5, maybe the prime rate was like 5%. I was like, yeah, I'm getting like 3.5%. Can you guys come up to 4? Because and use Canadian Tire as the example here, because I'm like, Canadian Tire will literally offer me a high interest TFSA at 4%. And I don't have to do anything. Literally just put money into that the same way as I have the Canadian Tire credit card. So your competition here is Canadian Tire. All you have to do is as good as them. And the bank was like, yeah, we can't match that. I was like, all right, I will be taking my $20,000 out of my bank account and I will be putting it in Canadian Tire. I would like a cashier's check today, please.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, what?
Let me talk to the manager. Yeah.
I blew the guy's. He didn't think it was possible. He was like, there's no. I'm like, I'm literally just going to go to a higher advertised rate somewhere else. Just like cut me a check for all my money.
Yep.
It's like you're gonna lose like $20,000 over half a percentage point of interest. Fuck you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed I accept every free offer that the bank gives me for extra credit and credit card increases and stuff, because I too also pay off my credit card every month, and I have never paid a single interest payment on the credit cards.
Well, I am horribly jealous of you because again, young and stupid and made poor financial decitions.
Yes,
man,
my father
cool
was
cars.
My father was very good with teaching me about this stuff, so all of my knowledge about this is could be attributed to him. I noticed my line of credit that is free and I never use, but it's there just in case of an emergency. It's 12% interest. It's like, oh, because it's whatever on top of prime. And at the time when I signed up for it, it was half of what it was. I'm like, okay, 6%. It's a lot better than a credit card if it comes down to it.
Yeah.
If I come close to the date, I transfer it over to the line of credit instead, and then we're all good. Or take advantage of interest-free balance transfers with credit cards. Like there's a whole bunch of fuckery you can do to
but
play the game along
vested into playing the game. That's you have to do the little shop around. You have to do the comparison. You have to wait for them to do we'll do it with there'll be no transfer fee.
Yeah,
instead of paying that 1% transfer fee. Or yes, you have to shop around. You have to play the game, and you need to do some research. But like this is a high agency activity. You have to have some like foresight into what you're doing with your life and the economy and what's going on,
and some time to look into it, because it takes time. And it takes a couple hours to go and look into this stuff and check it everywhere.
Phone calls, and then you have to call your financial advisor at the bank and be like, hey, can you meet this like advertised rate somewhere else? And they can be like humming and hawing for half an hour and decide not to.
Yeah, like the highest I've seen of a GIC is like 5.5%. Like,
which is not bad for a GIC.
Yeah, especially for 1 year, it's fairly good. But again, when you're paying like twice that through everything else, if you need to borrow money, like that's bullshit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like just the get off the usury train. Stop paying the what's a credit card go for now? Like 19,
25,
21, 24, 25?
25%, I think, is mine,
Ooh,
but no annual
buddy.
fees. So,
Well, pros and cons to
and
that.
I don't pay the interest, so it doesn't matter to me. Worst case, I go and jump over the line of
I
credits
mean,
at
it doesn't
less.
matter to
Like,
you, but it would matter to some people if they're using that.
yes,
If they're using that
yes,
credit card and you're paying 25% APR on a credit card.
yeah,
That's a lot of percents. That's a
yeah,
lot of money that you could be losing to
oh yeah,
literally just using the credit card.
yeah. So there's two methods to paying off debt. There's the snowball method and the avalanche method. I hope I don't fuck up what orders.
You want to bust out your Dave Ramsey here? You get your
So basically the two. I'm probably gonna fuck up. I've been drinking too much. I can't remember which term is for what.
Come on,
But
blame it on the alcohol. All right,
so you either
I'll give
pay
you
off.
I'll give you the softball, the snowball method. Snowball method is picking the debts and paying off the smallest one first,
Okay,
and then paying the same. So if you had like 3 products and you're paying like $100, $200, and $300 a month on each of those 3 products, the snowball method is paying off the $100 a month one first, but continuing to pay the, what did I say? 1, 2, 3. That's
once you paid off the first one, then you're paying the extra.
Paying $600 a month.
Yeah,
but you pay off the lowest one first.
The lowest
doing a poor
debt
job of explaining this.
The lowest debt owed.
Yes. So if you had
it.
3 debts, if you had $100, $200, and $300 debts, those were your monthly payments. So you're paying $600 a month total in servicing your debt. Pay off the entire $100 one balance first, and then continue to pay that $100 against the $600
throw it into
balance.
Everything else. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the avalanche is paying off the highest interest rate first.
Which, again, not opposed to that plan either.
Yeah. So for most people, the mortgage would be the lowest interest rate.
For most people, it's also going to be their highest bill, like their largest dollar value bill.
Yeah. So the pros and cons of it is pretty much like, are you the kind of guy who needs to feel good every single time you pay something off to continue to stay motivated to continue doing it? You can see that your debt is going off.
Give me my little gold star.
Yes. So in that method, you'd be paying that off. But if you are more in tune with finances and you know how much you're going to be paying, the avalanche method, by paying off the highest interest rate first, would save you the most amount of money. In the end, it could be a negligible amount, but there is still a difference.
There is a difference, but I'm going to say for most people, like the majority of circumstances, it probably doesn't matter. A couple $10,000 one way or the other over the lifetime of all of the money that you earn through your job and all of the debts that you have, a couple $10,000 one way or the other does not really matter.
Yeah. So for most people,
stop being a victim of usury.
Yeah. Pay off the least debt owing first, so you get that nice feeling. So you keep doing it, keep going.
I do like the nice feeling, and I mean, but it does not. Whether you prioritize it by interest rate, or you prioritize it by balance, or you prioritize it by payment dollar value, just pay off all your debts, and then stop getting new ones,
and stop eating out for lunch every day. You're pissing away thousands of dollars every year.
Well, and I mean, like, again, there are balances to these things. Should you never eat out? Well, no, because like there's social time and bonding and like,
yes,
there is, but like if you're just going out every day to have lunch because you're too lazy to plan to pack a lunch, that is different than you're going out with your friends to go and have camaraderie and bonding, which is a different thing. And there's costs associated with that. There's 100% of costs associated with that.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means you have to be like cognizant of this. I am deciding to go to the bar with my friends to have beer and chicken wings because that's a thing we want to do.
Yeah.
Versus, I don't really feel like making lunch today.
And most people can't hold the streak of being so frugal with their money like that. Every once in a while, most people have to splurge on something or have some sort of nice feeling.
I am not saying that there is not the nice feeling, because I mean, like, everybody's chasing the dopamine hit, right? This is I get that. I want the dopamine hit. I'm still trying to find the gun that fits the hole in my life. And I will continue to buy those guns until I find the one that connects with all of the dopamine receptors. Miss my AR-15, but
Yes.
going out and getting your, whatever, if you're the Starbucks aficionado, if you're going to go and get a Starbucks, okay, it's $5. Okay, that's $25 a week.
$20 a week, $100 a month,
right?
1,200 a year. Like that's where.
But is 1,200 a year worth it? And for some people, it might be. So I'm not saying don't go buy your fancy coffee. I very rarely go out for coffee. If I go out for coffee, I'm going with somebody for the going to have the social interaction.
Yeah.
Not because I want the weird coffee, which I don't. I want regular coffee, but that's beside the point. It's the same as lunch, though, or it's the same as going out with friends after we go shooting, or the actual going shooting just for fun, going shooting, not necessarily the
because that ammo costs money,
right. Or because you want to ride your motorcycle because you enjoy riding your motorcycle, right? I'm not saying people shouldn't do those things. Just there are pros and cons, and there are costs to doing these things. And if you're paying 19.9% APR on your motorcycle, and you don't have money to buy the gas, and you're financing the insurance on your credit card, and you're not paying down your mortgage, it's and right? If you're doing all of these things, maybe using the motorcycle analogy, maybe you really are enjoying that motorcycle thing and it's a big part of your, but maybe you need to reprioritize some other stuff to pay the motorcycle off, or have money available the next time that the insurance comes due, so you can do the 12-month upfront buy rather than the extra 10% every month to do the monthly payment, which is another one of those scammy, well, if I have all the money now, I can just pay the entire bill now and they'll give me a deal on it because I'm paying for the year in a single payment. Because some insurance companies will do that.
Oh, insurance. Okay, I thought you were talking about the dealerships. Dealerships don't do that.
No.
They
on
hate
insurance.
that.
on insurance.
Yeah.
Because some insurance companies, if you do annual versus monthly, they'll cut you a break. So they'll knock it down, whatever it is, 8 or 10%, the equivalent of one month, for not having to deal with the admin of doing it every month.
Yeah.
Right. So I do that. I try to pay all of my insurance annually because they'll cut me a little discount. But I try to find all of those little details that are in the fine print to how to get
everything's spelled out. It's just in really small print.
It's small print, and you have to be a little bit on the spectrum and go through and figure out what works best.
Or have a friend who can likes the time to spend with you and can help you out.
Yeah. Stop being subject to usury.
Yeah.
As much as possible. You're going to have to, you're probably going to have to take out a student loan. You're probably going to have a mortgage. Most people are going to have a car payment.
Yeah.
Be smart. Don't be like me. Don't buy the coolest muscle car on the lot when you're 21. It was a great car.
Well, what was it? You can't just tease it.
It was a Charger.
Nice.
Yeah, my first car was an awesome Charger.
Yeah,
but I didn't need it.
Mine was a '92 Cadillac Seville I got for $1,000.
That's big pimping right there.
It was pimping.
That is big pimping.
But it fucking died in a year or two because it was cheap. But
but
it was as old as I was.
$1,000. It works, and that's the. Do you want to have the new Escalade, or do you want to have the what'd you say it was, a DeVille?
Seville.
A Seville.
Yeah.
That you get to work until the day that it doesn't go to work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's trade-offs to that. And I don't know. Some of it is appearances, and some of it is keeping up with people. But really,
I don't know those people. Keep up with people.
It's not. I don't even like those people.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. Don't do those things.
The best people you should be spending time with will commend you for not keeping up with them.
Yeah. Don't keep up with those.
If you can't do it, man, don't put yourself into debt. Do whatever you can to not.
Yeah. Don't be a subject. Don't be a victim of usury. Don't be paying 25% on your credit cards. Put it on the 12% line of credit, and then get that rolled into your mortgage at 6%, and then get that paid off.
Yeah.
All right. If you've listened to the show this long, you should use discount code Patriot when you're shopping at Ragnarok Tactical. Help me clean out some inventory and buy all the things on the website. And as June is Men's Mental Health Month, I would like to close with a tweet quote to a news release from Roman Baber, the independent MP for York Centre. A statement on Pride Month. I support the LGBT community because I'm a conservative. What consenting adults do is neither our nor the government's business. Let adults live their best life. Love is love, and love is beautiful. Marching in a parade on Yonge Street is a protected expression, assembly right, just like it is to camp outside Parliament Hill. Don't like, don't look. Until a few decades ago, loved ones could not visit each other in a hospital. It happened again in 2021. Dozens of countries still criminalize sexuality. I march with the community in defense of basic human rights around the world. The above does not mean that anyone should impose their political or social ideology on others, especially in schools. I will refer to anyone however they wish because I respect their dignity. But no one should be compelled to say or disclose anything. Freedom of expression cuts in every direction. Finally, let kids be kids. Reasonable adults and educators can agree on what is objectively age appropriate. Parents must be allowed to instill values in children, not woke school unions. Alas, we have been at this for over 20 years. Let's focus on restoring Canada's democracy, bringing down the cost of living, and building homes. Happy Pride Month, or happy month of June, regardless of what you do or do not celebrate. Articulated with love, Roman Baber.